Hi everyone, it's Mandy Gibbons here, and I'm here with Barry. And Barry's a psychologist, a combat veteran, and author of Which Way Is Your Warrior Facing? And welcome, Barry. It's awesome to have you here
Thanks.
today.
Thanks, Mandy. We've been talking a long time to try and make this happen. So it's a real gift to kind of have time to hang out with you and have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I met Barry originally on LinkedIn via John, which was maybe
Mm.
could have been last year or even the year before. It was
I think the year before, yeah.
yes. And yeah, and we've sort of like stayed connecting by message. And I really love I support Barry's work big time. So it was really exciting to have him on today, and I value and appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure, trust me.
Awesome. And so I've got a few questions. I like to keep this super conversational,
Okay.
as the listeners know. So I'd love if you could just share a little bit about your backstory, because I think that's super inspiring, but it also gives the audience a little bit more of insight into who you are and how you got to where you are now, right? So
Okay. It's a series of misadventures and adventures, Mandy. So,
well, we're up for hearing it all.
yeah. Warts and all. I mean, if you go all the way back, I was born in what was Southern Rhodesia, which was a British colony,
Yeah.
1953. You can do your maths from there. And yeah, uneventful schooling. We were known as the breadbasket of Africa. Had a great lifestyle, a lot of outdoor stuff. Academically, not my strong point. Played a lot of sport, gymnastics, squash. So enjoyed school and hated school. Ended up going to university. There was really nothing I wanted to do. I was an under average achiever. It was suggested to me by my parents that I become a teacher because there was nothing really left after that. Spent 4 years becoming a teacher. Finished that, decided, nope, there's no ways I'm putting foot in a school. Then I got called up in 1976 to the Rhodesian Army. So I was 23 at that point. So the guys were going in about 18.
Yeah.
So turned up, did my basic service. Then I did a 3-month medic course, quite an advanced medic course. It was based, from what I remember, on the Israeli medic course. So we could do cut downs, drips, drugs, deliver babies. We could do anything out in the field.
Yeah, wow.
And then got transferred to my unit, which was on the Mozambique border, which was pretty mountainous territory, and got allocated to a group of 3 others. We worked in 4-man sticks. It was called high density force operations. So we would flood areas in 4-man sticks and patrol from 7 to 14 days. In areas where terrorists walked around in our territory from 30 to 300. We did actually have a stick that walked into 300 terrorists in 3 long lines with interesting results. So did that for about 7 months. And then yeah, I think I'd had enough, and I really felt like I wanted to come out feet first and not in a box. So went back to uni, became a speech and hearing correctionist, because that was, everything was by default, because that was all that I could do, given that I'd not had any teaching experience. Did that, worked for 2 years in that, then headed off to Australia, actually, believe it or not, 1980. Just walked in with my ex-wife into the British consulate as a teacher. No money, no friends, no family, no nothing. So we want to go to Australia, and he interviewed us, and straight away he said, well, he said, you're in. I went, what? He said, no, you're in. No money, paid nothing, climbed on a plane. Actually, no, we went to England first. No, yeah, we climbed on a plane, came here, had a really tough 2.5 years. I was working, I think, with autistic kids up in Sydney, which was
Yeah,
tough. And then got a
yeah,
van, took off, lived in the bush. We lived in the bush, and I was beautiful in those days. I was camping with guys from the Depression, reading Banjo Patterson, singing
yeah,
Aussie music. So it was my first real taste of what Australia was like and what country folk were like. And then I left. It was tough. And to cut a long story short, eventually ended up in England, did a second language training, worked in a mountain bike company in 1984. My ex-wife wanted to go to Israel. I never really had too much of a passion to go to Israel. She wasn't Jewish, I was Jewish. And so I bought the first steel-framed mountain bike. I climbed on the mountain bike. She was on a moped. I'm wearing a pair of thongs. It's loaded up. There's no mobiles in those days. And no map. I don't even remember knowing how I was going to get there, but off we went. And after
That's the
3
best
days,
kind of adventures, right?
yeah, I don't know. You know, some of them verge on the stupid. And I think that was probably going there. And couldn't do it. I had pollen allergies, got back, flew to Israel. 5 of us started the British Council English Language Center and ran that. We developed it from the ground up for 4 years.
Wow.
But then the biggest thing for me was in Israel, I really got into running.
Yeah.
Started running marathons, did some beautiful half marathons in the desert, took my mountain bike. A group of us cycled through the desert from Tel Aviv to Eilat, which was about, I think it was about 370 odd Ks. We did in 2 days, and it was just absolute fun. Eventually meandered my way back to South Africa, still lost, don't want to teach anymore. Went back to my old university. I didn't know what to do. They said, well, do psychology. And I went, you could be joking. Like I add up with my fingers, and statistics was going to do me in. So they said, look, do it. Default, that's all I had. So I did Psycho 1 and 2 and 3 to finish my degree from the 70s, got into the honors, did the 2-year master's program, a year in an internship, had some hard experiences with a patient dying under my hands at one point. And then, yeah, got into more extreme running. And I think, you know, the interesting thing, Mandy, was I left my war in 77, and you had no sense of being a veteran. PTSD was not even around. So we all took off. 2 weeks later, I was at university, and looking at a photograph, my eyes were literally skewed. Waking up 30 times a night, a lot of headaches, body aches and pains, which I don't normally get. A mate of mine I spoke to maybe about 5 years ago said I was quite hyper in my speech.
Yeah.
So not PTSD, but clearly combat stress.
Yes.
Probably put it in that territory. And I think for me, I kept, like a lot of the guys and girls, we go into extreme stuff. So then I just kept pushing the running, and I got into ultra marathon running and did 2 in South Africa. One was, I think it was 64 Ks, 32 up, 32 down. And then I did a thing called Comrades Ultra Marathon, which is an great international race. And I did the 84 kilometers uphill. And I was injured at about 64 Ks, and literally I was going to finish or I was going to die. I thumped my way to the end of that. And then eventually in 2000, I came back here and got into a school, started a private practice. It was easy to get back in because I had become an Aussie citizen when I first came. My government changed hands and left me stateless here. And then in 2002, what was then called Vietnam Veterans Counseling Services, got permission from the government to contract external psychologists. So they met me and they saw the balance between psych and combat veteran, and took me on right in the very beginning. And so I've always had the balance between my work in a school and my work with Open Arms, for both of them for the past 20 years. So that's it kind of all in a nutshell. I think a couple of relationships and another marriage down the drain, if I remember. Injuries and all sorts of fun. But life, I always said that life for me started slowing down at 60. I got remarried at 60, an extraordinary woman from Brazil. Life stabilized. I couldn't run that far anymore, which I think was a good thing. About 2-3 years ago, I was running like in extreme heat. And at my age, that was like the mountain biking. That was stupid. And eventually took myself out of running with a severe injury. So life has slowed me down. It's taught me that sometimes you can't run ahead of what you're trying to not deal with, that there are other ways to do it, and that you can still have adventures, but you have to learn to pace yourself. So it's been an extraordinary journey, some of which I'm not sure I would repeat. But here I am now, having had the gift of my work with veterans for 20 years and learning from them. You know, it was never one way. I realized that even my training, I didn't know enough. I was one of those psychodynamically trained clinicians.
Yeah.
So I was great at having relationships, but I could see with the guys that I was missing something. And it was the Vietnam boys in the early days. And their war and my war were very similar. We cross over. And so it began a long journey looking at the brain, body-based modalities, but then slowly learning that there was so much wisdom in the territory of veterans that wasn't being drawn on and used in healing with veterans.
Yeah.
And we can talk more about that later if you wish. And so I've developed a way of talking to the guys, or in this case, really my brothers.
Yes.
Guys I love deeply. And in the mix between us, I found this language that was completely from operational territory up, not evidence-based down, but what they know, and then showing them what they know and who they are can be put into place when they make transitional journeys. So it empowers them immediately to know that they have these skill sets. And it's kind of my whole approach is like, as military, we have this whole thing that we never leave anyone behind. So my prime thing with the FOCA, well, don't leave yourself behind. So you have to learn, because we neglect ourselves when we hit trauma. So my whole goal was, we've got a mission. The first one is to go back and get yourself and bring back the positive qualities and heal the wounds. Then combine the positive qualities with a civilian. And then you've got an extraordinary human being with values and attributes that are short on the ground in this age.
Yeah.
So, you know, the therapy is not, I wouldn't call it therapy. It's a journey we go on where we refine who we are and how we take that into our present. And it's not about getting hooked on who you were. It's not about holding on to identity. It's holding on to values and attributes and strengths. So it's like a song, you know. And then the book, when I wrote that, my thing was, what is the song I'm going to leave behind when I'm no longer in this body, or when I need to really slow down and maybe give myself a break, which I'm kind of getting close to. And so that book was really my song.
Yeah.
And it was a song to help clinicians to learn how to do it better, you know, to think beyond the academics into understanding and almost becoming acculturalized to these extraordinary men and women. And also it functions as a healing process in the book with journaling. I always say, if you partake in the journaling sections in the book, my book becomes your book. If you do it with your partners, it becomes your family's book, and then it becomes our book.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's speedy trip from early days to the present.
That's awesome. And what you said about identity, I think too, like the powerful part about identity is that we can adapt and change it according to our values, right? And as we move through life, our values change. And, you know, it's very easy to get stuck in the one identity and to feel like, you know, we can't move out of that. And I think that's really important, what you said about that, amongst all the other awesomeness that you just shared, that I do feel that, like, deeply when you talk about
my
identity.
generation, Mandy, there was no such thing as psychological help. We just blasted into life. And now what we have is, you know, in certain parts of, you know, more the special force aspects of the Rhodesian Army, we have men in their late 60s, 70s. I mean, we're all hitting 70 and beyond. And some of them are still contracting. And, you know, that's the point at which you become institutionalized, because your ability to re-find your place in a transitioning journey stops. So all you have left is what you were, and you hold on to that. Now, yeah, I'm not judging that, but I think you know, we have a right to have a life. And
Yes.
so much of my time over the last 20 years has been increasingly focused on that place between who we were, where we need to go, and this transitioning territory. And I often say it's like another operational zone. And as much as we plan operations in military worlds,
Yes.
this is also an operation. It's how are you going to cross? Who are you? What are what's in your backpack? Is it weighing you down?
Yes.
There's little things like my bunch march in Anzac in Sydney. And when I was marching with them, I remember standing there and seeing our special air service, a couple of special air services guys, really the Selous Scouts, which were a reconnaissance unit, and the commandos, and feeling quite inadequate because they did a lot of the cross-border stuff and had some horrifying, I mean, they were having like 5 contacts a day being dropped in from 500 feet on a chopper. And I felt incredibly inadequate. And slowly I started asking folk, how do you feel about marching in Anzac? How do you feel about wearing your medals? And increasingly I started tracking shame about not being good enough. And, you know, I know a Navy SEAL quite well, and they talked about not feeling good enough. And so my thing is, where does shame stop? It's not just the guy in admin, but it can go all the way up to tier 1 operators, because you make judgments based on a measurement of what defines a warrior. And it was only when a captain from my war said to me, because I talked to him about this, and he said, the very fact that you put foot in territory, whether you're in an administrative role or whatever, the fact that you put on uniform, you've already earned the right. And it's learning how to settle the shame, because that shame, more than anything, erodes it. And it's the one thing that we don't like to talk about, the not feeling good enough. So there's those little things that, you know, as I realized I was experiencing them, I wondered whether other people were experiencing them. So slowly, you know, I've tangled out the complex kind of transitional stories and songs that get interwoven that can easily sabotage somebody from the freedom to live an amazing life and not have to go down the rabbit hole and wake up one day and go, you know, I just don't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
You know, there's enough of a battle out there when you come out finding work, you know, not the whole world's not waiting for you. Getting your entitlements. You know, we know that those are major triggers and challenging issues that can keep people on edges for years.
Yes.
But they're things that you can take control of. And so it means I often say, even it's things like well-being, and I'll talk about, you know, I have a whole thing around pull-throughs, and I can explain that to you. But that if you, in the military, we look after our weapon, and there are various things that we do, and we do it every day. Now, our bodies are a weapon, the physical aspect of fitness and sleep, and the internal aspect, which is when you clean the barrel of a weapon, and you need both. And so often with the guys, I'm first starting off like, we've got to find pull-throughs here. 20 minutes a day. And why? Because the minute you do your 20 minutes, you go from the back seat of your vehicle into the front seat. You're still driving through a dust storm, but you're in control.
Yes.
It's not so much around the psychobabble around your trauma and your anxiety and measuring it. It's like, let's get you in the front seat.
Yes.
Because once you're navigating in the front seat, and once you know where you are in the territory, you're more empowered to do the hard work. So there's simple things. It's all discipline, learning to tolerate levels of discomfort. I always tell guys, you need to find some kind of discomfort every day. You know, when I could no longer run long distances, I came across Wim Hof, and I started his breathing.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh yeah, I'm going cold water here. Eh? And I thought, okay. So I've done 2.5 years. I haven't had a hot shower in 2.5 years. And I love it in winter because I look at that shower and I go, And as I hit it, it's like I can turn on my internal core now. So it's cold and then warm.
Yes.
But it's discomfort, you know. And so between change, there's a place of resistance. There's a place where there's fear, there's avoidance. Now, that level of discomfort, we need to find little aspects, little bites every day. It could be getting up to do the post, having a shower, making your bed. But as we condition ourselves to becoming comfortable with discomfort, we're ready to start doing bigger and bigger change. So there's all this practical stuff.
Yes.
It's like an operational plan we're going on.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes absolute sense. Even for myself, like every day, I have things that will, and especially obviously recovering from brain and nervous system trauma, I had things that I specifically would push myself to do. And as difficult as it was, I think of where I was and where I am now. And it's setting those things. And sometimes sometimes things feel so far away and the baby steps seem not good enough, right? But once you like accept that, no, these little steps now are going to achieve this and you're going to be able to get to those bigger things, that's when it sort of takes the pressure off of feeling like it's not fair that I'm not here now. This feels too far away, right? It kind of brings things in closer to you. And when you start taking those steps and start getting the results, you're creating wins, you're feeling good about yourself. And you then have like a new track record within yourself of doing these things. And then it's like, hell yeah, I can do this. This is awesome.
So, you talk about that kind of adrenal strength that you have to push through. Now, we can push too hard and it becomes destructive.
Yes.
But with that push, when it's controlled,
yes,
it's resilience.
Yes.
And the small steps are not small steps. Running an ultra marathon, you don't look at the finishing line. You're going table by table by table.
Yes.
So everything in life is small steps. The problem is the adrenal functioning is we want the big stuff. We want what I call the bungee jump. But you can go and have your bungee jump and then what? You're not going to be able to do your bungee jump every day. You can't climb mountains every day. You can't run. Well, some people do, but you can't exercise excessively every day. You can't push yourself every day.
And not only that, you get that of feeling depression afterwards, right? You can feel really depressed and empty and low if you are like become addicted to those highs, right? Because you're always looking for something so spectacular to top that, right? To keep filling your cup. Yeah.
Well, for me, the classic wake-up call was before I injured myself about 2 and a bit years ago. I once or twice a year, I would wait for the 42 degrees and then I'd head out into the bush. And I'd head out and it was just like this oven. And my wife would look at me like I was nuts. And I was just like, I can't wait. It's like this communion between me and this fire.
Yeah.
And I got back from a run and my heartbeat was like 200 a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, there were definitely moments I was on the edge of heat exhaustion, heat stroke. So, my lack of not being able to moderate and that excessive push was probably going to kill me one day.
Yes.
And what I've learned is it's that how we find discomfort that's manageable and we increase it slowly, but also the internal stuff, the slowing down, so I always talk to the guys about maybe some mindful meditation, breathing techniques, tapping on acupressure points if they want to do a little bit of that stuff. But and I live with a body-based, I meditate. I meditated for 47 years for long hours, but that balance between stillness and action, between comfort and discomfort. And, if you think about it, if you look at a sniper, the sniper is the quintessence of mindfulness because it's long periods of absolute stillness and control of body and control of physiology. And then one moment of explosive controlled action. And even in the military on patrols, when you go on OPs and you assessing your territory around you, you can't make a noise. It's mindfulness in movement. So mindfulness is part of the warrior spirit. But unfortunately, I think we've lost a lot of it in pursuit of the physical excesses. And we need to combine both. You need to have, it's like when you're firing a weapon, the aiming is stillness, the pulling the trigger is action. And it's same with healing. We need stillness combined with action. And it's almost like, if you think about it, to leap up, you've got to push down. So you've got to push into yourself to be able to move outside of yourself. So it's getting all of those balances in place, and all the wisdom is already inherent in what guys are taught. You don't have to teach anything new. You just have to teach them to use it in the present moment.
Yeah. And it's like, I resonate with absolutely everything that you're saying. Like, I'm like, ting, ting, ting. Like, it just, I get it because of what I've been through, right? Like, it
Yeah.
just, it makes sense. And it was and it is when you're pumped on adrenaline or when you're in overwhelm all the time, it's difficult to see that, right? You go through that challenge of calming yourself down so that then you can
Yeah. Yeah.
actually grasp what you're
Correct.
saying and
Yeah.
that
Correct.
concept, because it is, well, one, you don't have creativity, but it's just, but you do find that, like, when you're trying to reel yourself back, the default you, if it's used to being ramped right up, will pull you out and say, no, don't go there. That's weak to be calm. No, 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 you have to keep pushing through. You've got to keep doing this. And so you have this internal fight like going on within yourself. And so one of the greatest gifts that I found, for myself was using neuroplasticity based audio tools to just like quieten the body,
Yeah.
right?
Spot on. Spot on.
And because it gave me something to focus on, right?
Correct.
Because when your mind's going a million miles an hour and someone says, oh, just, empty your mind, you're like, going, what the hell? Like, I don't think so. How?
No.
And so if you have something that talks you through a process that you can actually focus on that can bring your body right down to calm mode, then you've got a lot more clarity, and you can find, like the other day, I set myself a patience challenge, right? Because I used to be, because I'm always setting myself challenges, but I just thought, well, because I used to be such a bull at a gate, and I
Yeah.
kind of am in a different way now, but like all the edges of the garden needed to be done, like, and I just thought, normally what I would have done is just like, rah, just tore it all up like a maniac and just,
Yeah.
like, and I used the little secateurs
Okay.
and I did the whole garden by hand. And
Yep.
I took pictures of it. I showed some of my veteran mates and they said, that would have killed us. We could never have done that. But I did it and I excelled at it and I felt super grounded by the time I'd finished it. I just relaxed into it, right? And I thought, oh, I'm going to enjoy this. It's going to look great when I finished.
Correct.
I'm not going to make myself do it the way I used to do it because I know that I don't want to go back into that default mode, right? And I was super proud of myself. Took longer than what it normally would, right? But I did it. And I even celebrated, took photos of it and thought, yeah, I won that one. But patience and mindfulness, bringing the body down to calm, has been probably one of the greatest gifts that has taken place through this recovery. And so I don't want to go through it again, but I'm so, so grateful for it. And so I feel what you're saying, right, when you're talking about this big time.
Yeah. Well, look, if you translate it into military terms, if a guy says, oh man, I can't keep still.
Yeah.
I go, hang on a second. On operations, what did you do with your weapon? Do you ever stop and clean it?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, of course. I go, how often? He goes, well, at least once a day. So I said, okay, so when you're stripping the working parts and oiling them, that's a kind of quiet activity, isn't it? You're just sitting, you're pulling things apart. I said, is that action or is that like stillness? And they go, yeah, it's pretty much stillness. You're just focusing and cleaning.
Yeah.
And then I go, so you need to have stillness to be able to create a weapon that's efficient. And your body is your weapon. I then go, so now you've done your working parts. And your working parts are how it translates into non-military languages. Are you exercising? What's your nutrition like? What's your sleep like? Those are the working parts, the oiling of it. Then, if that's all you're doing, then your barrel is accumulating residue because it does. Every time you fire around, it gets dirty. It's exposed to climate. It gets wet. So if you don't clean your barrel and you don't oil your working parts, there are three things in the military that's going to happen. The first thing is you can get an accidental discharge. You're walking around, bang, your weapon goes off. So an accidental discharge is an uncontrollable burst of anger.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're going to get angry if you're not cleaning your working parts, and if you're not sticking a weighted lead piece down your barrel with an oily rag and just pulling it through. The second thing that's going to happen is you have a stoppage where the round just gets in the barrel, and then you find another one, and it's not a pretty sight.
Yes.
Stoppage is depression. It's anxiety. It's that which literally stops you from functioning. And the third thing that's going to happen is what we call as a runaway gun. And that is when a weapon just starts firing off on its own. It's like, I saw a guy with a MAG, a machine gun, and this thing just went, and he was going, oh, what do I do? And that's when the individual is completely out of control.
Yes.
So you can apply the same understandings to when you're not balancing out your lifestyle, both externally and internally, those three things are going to happen.
Yes.
And so with the military folk, you're going, well, you're going to have a stoppage, a runaway gun, or stage, a runaway gun. Oh God, I've lost the third one. But you'll have one of those three. None of them are productive.
Yes.
They will erode your family. And the problem is that when we come back from war, our brains don't differentiate between military and civilian life.
Yeah.
The brain just does go, oh, I'm back in City Street in Sydney now. It's not, it's still working on operational kind of survival wiring.
Yes.
And so what we're doing is we're coming back like runaway guns, waiting for a stoppage. To get angry, we get anxious, we get reactive, we get out of control. And then we become the enemy within our family.
Yeah.
And, I said to one guy once, because he was giving his wife a hell of a tough time. And I said to him, hang on, when you were going through Afghanistan and you were going through a village and there were women swearing at you and throwing rocks at you, and I said, did you shoot them? And he goes, no, of course not. I go, why? Because he said, well, you don't shoot women. So I went, well, hang on a second. If you can hold that level of constraint there, how come you're giving your wife a hard time now? And she's not even the enemy. She's part of your stick.
Yeah.
And he went, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when you frame things in the language I understand, and you form connection and trust, and you don't have to be a veteran to form that connection of trust and love, actually.
Yes.
But you have to be able, they don't come into your territory.
Yes.
You have to earn the right to enter theirs. And you demonstrate that by taking your certificates off the wall. Stop deciding where you're going to sit and where they're going to sit, because they're always going to face the door. And if your chair faces the door, tough luck, get out of it.
Yes.
And start to learn their language and care for them and love them. Then think about the tools you want to use.
Yes.
But without that relationship of understanding and shared understanding and trust, all you are is a technician in the room applying your tools.
Yeah.
And veterans don't like being treated like specimens on a chair. It's like, the PTSD. We're not disordered. Yeah, we have post-traumatic stress.
Yes.
And in fact, now we have the opportunity for post-traumatic growth. There's positive aspects in all of that.
Yes.
So, the big thing as well is how my kind and my tribe who are working with veterans need to think beyond the parameters of all their training.
Yes.
And if you do think about it, when we are really upregulated, the back of our brain, which I call the ambush zone, that one's kicking up. Trip flares are going, claymores are firing off. All you are in is survival mode.
Yes.
When that's going on, there's no blood flow to the front at all.
Yes.
So that's why when you come back from Afghanistan and you're driving down the road and you see a box and your brain just goes explosive, an IED on the side of the road, your front of your brain's not working. Other words, would say, hang on, that's just a box.
Yes.
So the front, we acknowledge that the front of the brain is out, it's gone. And what are a lot of modalities? They're frontal based, thinking about your thinking, but that door's locked. And I don't mean to upset many psychs who go for this, but the bottom line is, if it's a frontal cortex based tool, you can't go through that door. That's like being in Afghanistan and entering a doorway where there's about 20 people inside waiting for you to come in. You go around the back and you come in from the back or from the top.
Yes.
So is all these things where I think there needs to be change.
Yes.
How we understand this extraordinary tribe and how we have the compassion to be able to learn that what we know is not enough.
Yes.
So that, yeah, I've done my rant, so I probably won't have to do it again for the rest of it. So
It didn't feel like a rant. I loved every moment of it.
Yeah, I just feel really strongly about it. And,
Yeah.
you know, for 20 years, I've asked myself, am I part of the problem or the solution?
Yeah.
And when I feel I'm part of the problem, I've always sat and looked at how do I get better at what I do?
Yeah.
So I think the minute we come out with 2 or 3 modalities well known and tell ourselves that that's okay and we're going to apply those to everyone, it's like taking one weapon into a whole lot of territories and saying, I've got 3 weapons and they're all applicable. Well, no.
Yes.
Every territory demands different things.
Yes.
So part of what I want to do is also encourage my tribe of clinicians or psychologists and counselors and whoever they are to learn to do it better and to know that you can also understand this knowledge and be welcomed into this tribe. And there's a woman in America called Dr. 𝗠𝗏𝗱𝗆, and Shauna is an extraordinary human being. And she writes a book where she says, we have a choice. If we want to sit in a chair and have our certificates on the wall and work solely on our evidence-based modalities, and that's what we do, we apply our evidence-based modality, you are the doctor. Now, there's a place for doctors. But she said, if you really want to work with vets, you got to learn to be a doc. How do you learn to be a doc? You got to learn to gather trust.
Yes.
And how do you earn trust? You earn trust by listening before you think you know.
Yes.
So there's all of that I'd like to see more changes, because I've seen it's not that we step out of boundaries, but, you know, if you're on operations, you don't just think you know the territory and what you need to take. You spend a lot of time looking at maps and understanding and aerial photographs and planning. Well, why don't we do the same as professionals?
Yes.
You know, what we taught at university is a rough couple of tools.
Yes.
But we need more. They can't teach you everything. Body-based, bottom-up. You know, so yeah, it's a mission. And I think part of what I'd love when I finally get a time to leave all of this and leave my body or stop my work is to leave something where people can learn to enter the relationship with these people with more love and understanding and less arrogance around the tools that they've been told can do everything.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. And that's how
So
you
I
break
apologize for
shame,
anybody
right?
I've upset. Yeah, and I apologize if I've upset everyone, but, you know, dust off, get up and get better at what you do is the best I can say, because I'm still learning, and I think you should also be learning as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And there's nothing that you said that should upset anyone, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all here for growth, but there's insights in that, right? There's insights in going about it in that way, both for yourself and for the person that you're supporting at the same time as well, right? And that's a wonderful thing to be able to be adaptable to that, but also to be open to that, right?
Yeah, well, you know, Mandy, I mean, we're dealing with, you know, 20 odd people a day wherever in the world are choosing not to live.
Yes.
We're dealing with people that carry, and we all do, you know, when you scratch away the anger and the trauma underneath, I've learned over time, there's the most profound sense of grief in every one of us.
Yes.
And you know, I can tell you personally, I don't like going there. We can be watching a movie on TV, and my wife watches me and she goes, "You okay?" And I go, "Yep." And I'm watching myself at this point and I'm going, you know, I'm telling guys how to do this better. And I'm going, "Yep." She goes, "No, you're not." I go, "No, I'm fine." You know, and so I've learned that grief, and as I've sat with the men and the women, we get there, and when we acknowledge that we all carry grief.
Yes.
You know, I'm not the healer of grief. I'm someone who has his own grief, and we sit together and I understand and care for your grief because it's a common part. It's part of the scars, and you know, the scars are our rights of wisdom.
Yes.
From dealing with adversity. And as we learn to know that it's okay, even if you accept that your grief doesn't make you less, your guilt, the moral injuries you experience don't make you less, but it's how you listen to them and allow them to heal and allow them to move through your body. It's what makes us human, you know, and our pain is what gives us compassion. Aspects of our operational kind of experiences and and the losses and the things we see teach us compassion. You know,
Yes.
they're not a waste,
Yeah.
but they have to be worked with so they become fertile, and they give us the wisdom to become even better at who we are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Yeah. I honestly, I'm so glad that you're sharing this today. I like that just are so, my beliefs are completely congruent with yours. So it's
I've shot myself in the foot a couple of times because, you know, the aspects of my tribe that don't like to hear that you're going for a part of the brain that's shut down. So do you think there's not something wrong there? You know, and but, you know, at the end of the day, I'm more willing to have a lot of people, or some people, angry and irritated by me. But I think more and more, all of us need to have a collective voice of
yes.
what veterans need, not just what we think they need.
Yes, that's it.
You know, we have to sit and look at it carefully and understand the complexities of it, and then look at whether what we have is enough. And if it's not, start to think beyond the square.
Yeah, that's it. And I think there's even within families, it can be like this. It's nearly like at first it can be like a mollycoddling type of, you know, of which, you know, when you're suffering, like it, and especially if you're a strong person and you're suffering, it makes you feel like they pity you, right? There's
Yeah,
all this,
correct.
you
Yeah.
know, and you will withdraw more as well. And you know what you said about, you know, like especially when you go to that really dark place, especially when you're experiencing suicidal thoughts. When you're at that place, it feels like, I know because I've been there, well, for me anyway, because everyone, I guess, feels it differently because we're all our own people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess for my own experience, it was one of the darkest, loneliest, anguish-filled experiences that I've ever been through. And I was afraid for myself. When you're afraid for yourself, but you also feel empty,
Yeah,
like
you
there's
do.
nothing
Yeah.
there. And so
Yeah.
and people are like trying to cheer you up. And even if it doesn't matter what they tell you, how much they love you or whatever, you can't feel that.
Oh, you can't feel
You
it.
just,
Yeah.
there's nothing there. And you see all these people enjoying life, and it's just like watching a movie passing by your eyes, because you're like, you can't feel like that.
And, you know,
And
in that darkness of that journey, and there's, what do they call it? The long, dark night of the soul.
yes,
And in that darkness, sometimes it needs more complex stuff. And, you know,
yes,
fortunately now, the modalities of healing, especially in America and starting to merge here, are starting to spread out now more. You know, they're exploring a lot of different sort of remedies and approaches,
yeah,
whether it's oxygen-based stuff or other treatments that are now becoming accepted at a governmental level.
yes,
You know, in the States, they taking a lot of people into nature, equine
yes,
therapy.
yeah,
So we know that things are changing, and that there are things that you can experience in that long, dark night of the soul. But also, it's again like a lot of operations are where you feel such despair because stuff may have happened, you're tired, you're worn out, and it's finding the little things as well that just,
yes,
you're still going to suffer, but each little step means at least
yes,
you're still driving your vehicle through the suffering.
yes,
So the one is, how I often say, if you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. If you can't crawl, sit down.
yeah,
Have your moments. You
yes,
know, I have spent moments feeling like a victim, and I gave
yes,
myself permission. But
yes,
at some point, no matter how long it takes, you need to be ready to get up, dust off,
yes,
and then crawl or walk or run. But
yes,
it's that movement from woe is me, and we go into
yes,
the victim mode. We just feel
yes,
the world is just crushing us,
yes,
to then starting off with those little incremental steps, because they're little things we can do even when we suffer. Guys often say to me, oh, I just running around the block or running just up the road, I'm just so unhappy. I go, well,
Yeah.
you do this, hand on your collar, and you go.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
even when you're suffering, you can do something.
Because you're looking for meaning in
Yeah,
life,
you're looking
right?
for meaning.
And
Yeah,
when you have lost that, you've like even if you know you're a very purposeful person and you've got all these awesome things about yourself, you still feel like there's nothing meaningful
yeah,
there
yeah.
to because it's like just well, because you don't love yourself, right?
No, you don't love. You feel terrible. You feel
Yeah.
you feel defeated. You feel you less
Yes.
than who you are. It's
Yes.
humiliating within you.
Yes.
You know, you might have put on 30 kilograms. I've seen that a lot with highly competent folk. They come out and
Yeah.
the eating, the drinking.
Yeah.
And I understand all of that. So the next
Yes.
question is, so what are we going to start doing? You know, to get
Yes.
back
That's it.
to drop your weight, to get your physical fitness is a long journey.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
that's okay, one step
Yeah.
at a time. And as you said, you can't look too far ahead.
Yes. Yeah.
It's how, you know, between where we are and where we need to be, there's a
Yes.
wall. That
Yes.
wall is the wall of discomfort. It's the wall of fear. It's
Yes.
the wall of pain.
Yes.
Avoidance gives
Yes.
us a temporary hit of dopamine and
Yes.
it keeps us in our bubble.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
while we're in our bubble, because of avoidance, we're no longer thriving, we're just surviving.
Yes.
And the longer we stay in that bubble, the less oxygen there is in that bubble, the worse it's going to get till
Yes.
we're dying physically, psychologically, and spiritually.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
to be able to move out that bubble is an act of will. It's an act of
Yes.
determination to do
Yes.
something.
It is. Yes.
And when we can fire that up,
Yes.
and sometimes it can't be fired up on your own. You
Yes.
need someone to walk through it with you.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
practical. You know, what are you going to do? And
Yes.
I often say to folk, when you don't do it, cool, I'm not going to get angry. Let's
Yes.
just sit down and look what got in the way. Then
Yes.
we rejig the map and we
Yes.
find another way to get on top of it. But we
Yes.
keep the fire burning. When we lose
Yes.
that fire, we're
Yes.
gone.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. I'm very fortunate that one, I still had the spark in me.
Yeah.
Like I had a fire in me that just was yearning, right? For yeah, like I can't even explain what it was, but I'm so grateful that I went through that many years ago, because when I went after going through that and pulling myself through that, because people go, but you're still working out, but you're still doing this. And I said, I'm doing that because I'm trying to create my way out of this. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to quit on myself, even though I want to quit on myself. And I'm just like, it's confusing to explain it to someone, right? Who doesn't understand it. And so I was, and so I was grateful that I was able to move through that experience and fight my way out of it, but be accepting of it too. Because then when I went through recovering from brain and nervous system trauma, I knew what I had been through and what I could pull myself through.
Correct.
And so I knew I could get through this. It made me very aware of how I was feeling as well. Because once you've been through that, you know those dark feelings, right?
You do.
You can feel it, and it's like, I'm not going back there. And so it could have been easy for me to go back to that place, right? But what it did was it made me so aware, having that experience years beforehand, that I could recognize how I was feeling. And rather than being afraid of the darkness, I could be kinder to myself in that moment and just set some small steps for myself and just keep moving forward, right? But it was good because I was able to nip it in the bud before it got too far down the track or anything, right? And it does your awareness of that, and even just the slight little bit of feeling of that, you know it, right?
You do. And so what you learned when you were in the long fires and the darkness You learned that there's a level of resilience that you won't lose your fire to survive.
Yes.
And when
Yeah.
you learn that, and we go, the dark spaces we go through, we go in and out of them till we die. You know,
Yes.
life's not always one big up. It's
Yes.
a mixture of what I call the death cycle and the life cycle. And often those death cycles are where there just things need to change. The
Yes.
picture we've been painting, we need to crack the edges of it because we need to go beyond it.
Yes.
And so our life cracks the framework that we feel safe in. And then we go, now what? But when we
Yes.
learn that, we know we just start to develop that trust that one, we
Yes.
can survive. It's a definition of resilience.
Yes.
And also, I think, certainly within the military tribe, we don't need to be alone.
Yes.
You know, there are so many tribes out there that we can reach out to,
Yes.
call a number, a 24-hour number. Everything in the military is about tribe. It's not about one.
Yes.
One is in
Yeah.
the service of all, up to the
Yeah.
level of you will sacrifice your life for the other.
Yes.
So it's quite important, I think, when we navigate out the military and we're trying to figure out our tribe, is still to maintain aspects of connection
Yes.
and know where you can go to kind of culturally understood support, whether it's with an
Yes.
ex-mate, it's with organizations that service veterans, it's 24-hour number, you can call it 2 a.m. You know, it's your old officer, but we need to connect out.
Yes.
Because when we gather tribe is what allows us to survive the
Yes.
most profound adversity. It's so difficult on your own.
Yes.
Aloneness is a killer.
Yeah. Yeah. Loneliness is very painful, you
Ooh.
know, and it's just, and that's what, it's loneliness that drags you deeper and darker, right, into that.
Well, you know, when the brain stops thriving, it starts dying.
Yeah.
And then, you know, to try and find meaning, it's when we start doing the crazy stuff that just pollutes our bodies and takes us into the most terrible places.
Yes.
And those temporary hits of dopamine through avoidance and
Yes.
substance misuse, it's like a pact with the devil.
Yes.
And you know, I really understand that for some people, none of this is easy.
Yes.
And some people, their pain is so profound that they wake up one day and they just had enough. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
tier 1 guy in America. Yeah, he wrote a beautiful book, and I mean, he was selecting SEAL Team 6 candidates, and he got to a point, and his book talks about resilience, but he got to a point where he couldn't live anymore.
Yeah.
Injuries and everything, and he took his life.
Yes.
And I know that it's easy to talk about how all of us can survive, but for some people, the hurt and the pain is so great that I understand that
Yes.
some people get there. It's just at the moment, maybe too many people are not getting there. And we know that there's so many factors
Yes.
that are impacting on them that exacerbate. And
Yes.
those factors were resolved better at
Yes.
so many levels.
Yes.
Then maybe not so many would. But, you know, we can do what you can, but sometimes somebody's going to wake up one day and go, I just can't cope with the pain and the hell anymore.
Yeah.
And
it's not because they necessarily, it's not always that someone doesn't want to live. It's just they don't want to live with the pain, right?
Don't want to live with the pain, the grief, the loss, the traumatic brain injuries, you know, the physical injuries that are significant.
Yes.
And you know, seeing highly competent, you know, first percentile of the first percentile warriors get to that point. You know, we're all vulnerable.
Yes.
But you know, vulnerability, Mandy, is a part of life.
Yes.
You don't have to be in the army. You can go through divorce. You can go through loss.
Yes.
You can have significant illnesses. You know, there's battles within our bodies and battles around us. So really the same principles of learning to operate effectively as a human being apply to civilian life and civilians as well. I think civilians can learn a lot from the tools.
Yes, I agree.
And they can learn whether you're going to, what do you do when you're in your ambush zone? How do you get to your OP where you can just assess and think?
Yes.
What are your pull through tools? You know, we reframe it in a language that's understandable.
Yes.
But there's so much learning that applies between the two territories that I hope, you know, I always say no veteran should have to come home to die.
Yes. Yes.
And I hope that as we learn more and as organizations learn to do it better,
Yes.
then we will not become part of that problem.
Yes.
And what will be left are the hells that people carry within them.
Yes.
But with the exciting modalities and healing body-based and nature-based modalities that are starting to arise,
yes.
there's new opportunities for healing, because it's not so much about sharing your story at a cognitive level. It's living your healing in your body,
Yes.
and allowing your body in appropriate environments to just release at a pace that feels safe.
Yeah.
So you don't
And
need to
that's the
drop
thing,
people
right?
in. Yeah, you don't have to drop somebody in the ambush zone
Yeah.
to get them to heal their worst experience. I
Yeah.
want you to go back to the worst experience. Well, I understand that, but I
Yeah.
won't do that.
No.
These guys have already been through too many ambushes. Let's look at something that is more nurturing, caring, maybe slower.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's a work in progress.
And the thing is it like, I mean, from my own experience of you know, I guess what I've been through, and even like trying different treatments and therapists and so forth, there was some stuff that I tried that just traumatized the heck out of me all over again. And just, it was awful. And I just remember thinking to myself, I thought this was going to help me, you know what I mean? And so and I could feel myself like just reeling back and thinking, am I not going to be able to heal myself? Am I not fixable?
Correct. Yeah,
right.
Correct. Yeah.
And so and it was very much, it was neuroplasticity based audio tools and being able to calm down the body.
Yeah.
That is what really like helped me through the whole brain nervous system trauma stuff, because it was like, it just gave me relief, right? I could just still the body down, and then it gave me some clarity so that I could make some decisions on what the next steps were. And it's just gentle. And, you know, we don't think about that when we're trying to, when you're, you know, all pumped up, you don't want gentle at the time, right? It's like, or even if you're at that low point, gentle sometimes from someone else can feel like they're feeling sorry for you. And so you have these things that are going on in your head, right, that you're trying to decipher because of the way you feel about yourself, right?
Well, when you're in a lot of pain, your pain body is so acute that you don't even want anyone to touch you.
Yes.
But then you're caught in this aloneness. So what do you do there?
Yes.
So, you know, mindfulness is wonderful, but, you know, when you're totally freaked out in the back of your brain, mindfulness has a strong front of the brain. Imagine sitting by a river, watching. Well, when I'm in the back of my brain, I'm not watching anything. It's like I can't do that. There's no functioning there. So what I can do is I can do some Wim Hof breathing. You know, that's you know, wherever you are, that one you don't have to think. You just do the breathing and the breath holding. I often say to the guys, you know, your emergency protocols, have a glass of cold water or a bottle with ice and water in it. Cold water kicks down the back of the brain quickly. Drink it. When you're out of control, as much as you may not like it, jump into a cold shower for 30 seconds. You can't come out of a cold shower upregulated. You know, and yes, it's not enjoyable, but you know, okay, then come up with something else.
I've used cold showers heaps. It's awesome.
And again, what you learn is that with cold showers, you start to control your body core. And so you can literally turn on, you learn how to teach your body to stay warm in the presence of cold. Well, what is resilience? Resilience is the ability to stay comfortable in high states of arousal and discomfort. And it's a learned skill, which started off by some hot showers, a short cold shower, more cold showers, doing it over summer, slowly edging into winter. Everything is built up over time. But everything hinges around incremental steps of discomfort. You know, so avoidance, if you're stuck in avoidance, then you really need to get significant help. Because until you can learn that you have the freedom, I often go, we think we're in a prison and the door's locked, but actually if you turn around and touch your back pocket, there's a key in it.
Yes.
You know, it's
That's
and in
true.
fact the door's open as well. You
Yeah.
just haven't figured
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
when we get people to that point, like I'm in a real bad place,
Yeah.
but I've got a key.
Yeah.
And then we look at, so what are the keys you've got? What are the tools? What are the weapons? What are the learnings you've got? What are the tribes that are surrounding you? What are the modalities you can go to? Simple things.
Yes.
You know, we're never really in a prison. There's
Yeah.
always room to move. And you know, who was it? 𝗍𝗗𝗚𝗍𝗍 in the concentration camps. He said that no matter how bad it was, there were people that never lost hope because
Yes.
they were able to disembed from the horrors of what they were in and see beyond it. We
Yeah.
know, you know, the classic case is Hell Week in SEAL team selection.
Yes.
You know, you can't do Hell Week unless your vision and your purpose and your ability to see meaning and discomfort is so strong that you will do it because it's what you need.
Yes.
So what we know is when we think we've had enough, we haven't even begun to tap into the strength of the mind and the body.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
part of it is slowly allowing people to rediscover their fire and their strength.
Yes.
And that's going to take time.
Yes.
You go forward one step, go back 2 steps. Well, that's cool.
Yes.
So you had
Yes.
a bad week, you lost a couple of panic attacks. Let's regroup. It's all right. There's no shame. Let's
Yes.
start again.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a constant moving forward.
Yes, that's it. And what starts happening is when you start seeing those results and when you are moving forward, taking those steps, you start getting a bit more excited, right? Because you go,
do. Yeah.
you know, and of course it's important to celebrate those as well and acknowledge yourself when you've done them, rather than sort of like say to yourself, oh, well, it wasn't that good. No, that was awesome that you took that step. Okay,
Correct.
and what's next? Like, if that was possible for you to do that, what's possible next?
And it's always what next. You see, the minute you stop that, you're not growing.
Yes.
So that what next is what makes it so dynamic.
Yes.
So I don't know, it's this journey, I just, for me, this journey is so exciting. I can't say I search, apart from my cold water, and I wouldn't say I search out for discomfort too much anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to go through major collapse. I've had enough, and I like where I am, and I pray to the universe that just let me have this quiet zone and let me breathe my last breath in it. Please don't take too much away. But I know that if it had to happen, you know, I'd sit against the wall for a while, and as I've done in the past, I've learned that slowly I will come back out of it. But sometimes we have to suffer for quite a while.
Yes.
But when we can suffer in the presence of others, it's kind of generally, hopefully, survivable.
Yes.
So again, it's tribe.
Yes.
You know, if we want veterans to heal, we need to build tribe.
Yes.
Veterans are who they are by nature of tribe.
Yes.
You know, solitary is not good. So, you know, certainly, you know, there's numbers of groups now in Australia that are run by veterans. In America, it's very big. And they're forming tribe. You know, I belong to a group, and we gather once a week, and I love these guys. I've never met them face to face, but they've become like my brothers.
Yes.
And I look forward to it because it's my tribe. I have my ex-army mate in New Zealand. I've got another one in Perth, an extradition chopper pilot. And, you know, we understand each other, and we draw on those relationships as we go through our lives. So tribe is also important in when we're working with people. It's not enough just the one-to-one. We need to find ways to re-embed them in a place where they belong, and then also find ways to belong in this bewildering world called civilian life.
Yes. Yes.
You know, the language you use, you know, when you go into jobs and you copy that, you know, it's like, no, you can't do that in this job. It's like, you just have to learn a different way to talk. You know, how to write a resume. You know, it's a simple stuff that we have to learn. I always say civilians are not going to adjust to us. They need to understand us, but we need to adjust. It's their world.
Yes.
So it's this beautiful mix of territories and navigating their way through them.
Yes, that's it. That's it. That's it. And do you mind if I ask you some questions about your book as well? Because your book is incredible. And like, you know, that I've been like, you know, sharing it with others as well, and trying to get it out there. And like, what has the feedback been like, you know, from people reading it, you know, especially like people that are, well, for whether it be therapists or people that are supporting veterans or even veterans themselves?
Look, feedback has been good. And, you know, before it started, it's a metamorphosis, that book. When I realized I was writing a lot on Facebook, forming the things that were constellating as I was sitting with the Vietnam veterans and then the Afghani boys and the Iraq boys. And so I wrote a little book called Which Way Is Your Claymore Facing?
Yeah.
And the goal of that book was, inside all of us, we have claymores.
Yes.
And for those of you who don't know, claymore, it's like a circular explosive device.
Yes.
And it says this way facing forward. And if you're stupid enough to make it face towards you, well, you know, and we do that, we become self-destructive.
Yeah.
And so the book was about what you do with the claymores in the rooms, because we've all got them. They sit and they growl and they grow and they sweat. And when they come out on their own, they come out badly. And then I wrote a second book, which was just a PDF, and I printed that. And that was more around some of my adventures and learnings and lessons from ultramarathon running, and lessons from operations, and translating those lessons into relationship lessons. And that was more like for my family. And then I was kind of just giving that PDF away. And then I think beginning of last year, so December 2021, I didn't want to write another book. It's like, I can't do this anymore. And then I came home December and I went, nah, I'm going to do it. And I started reformatting. And then that's when I realized that I didn't just want to write a book. I wanted to have a journaling process. So,
Yes.
you know, in the book, for example, I have a letter that veterans can give to their partners, because I used to hand that letter out to veterans because we can't talk about. I find it very difficult. And there's some things I don't think I will ever talk about. And I find it difficult to word my vulnerability and my grief. So I thought, well, what if people had a letter and they go, look, I'm finding this hard, but read it and then we can have a conversation. So then I thought in the book, well, after you read the letter, why don't you write your letter in the book? And then I realized that for each chapter, I could have short journaling things that they could do. And so the book just morphed into something it was like it was coming from somewhere else.
Yes.
I hadn't even thought, as I was doing it, it was growing and becoming something different.
Yes.
And then at the back of the book, I had what I call them little bites, and there's several hundred of them. They're short things. And I thought, well, that would be great, because you can read one, find one, and that has meaning, and think about it for a few days. And then I thought, well, you know, us blokes, we like summaries. So I thought, I'm going to stick a summary in a nice little box with a hand underneath every chapter. So the book it functions at numbers of levels. You can just read it and not write in it. You can do what you want with it. You can take your time. So when I explained this to people and I gave it to people to read, they went, yeah, this really works. And I did. I gave it to numbers of people: a Navy SEAL, a Delta Force bloke, a counterintelligence person, all in America, and one of ex-commanding officer of a special force unit in Australia. And they really liked it. It's a different book because it's not a smart psychological book.
Yes.
Is it getting out there? Yes, no. But the thing is, you know, I gave birth to it, and it's like, you know, give birth to kids and afterwards they got to get into the world. So I kind of put it out, and I'd rather put my energy into the people I'm working with and things I can do like this. And hopefully in time, as it's like you want to change a forest one leaf at a time. So one conversation at a time, get the ebook out, because guys can have that ebook. And slowly I think things may change.
Yes.
But I'm not invested in whether it changes or not. This is just 20 years of learning as a man, a husband, a father, a combat veteran, a psychologist, and being taught by the most wonderful people that I've sat with. And this book is a product of all those stories.
Yes.
I don't know what's going to happen with it. And to tell the truth, I'm not particularly driven.
Yeah.
It will do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
There might come a time where I don't really put it out there a lot anymore. It will have its journey and it will either disappear or not. But when I die, I've left my song behind.
Yes.
And in that, I've already got peace. But I love to have conversations. I think when we lose time to have conversations with each other, we forget who we are. And the problem is today, I think so many people are trying to make a living or have got so successful that you can't even get close to have a conversation.
Yeah. True.
And that's the one thing I never want to lose, is that we should always be ready to have conversations with anyone that wants to have one, because those are the values and the attributes that we talk about. So I don't know, Mandy, I just get it out. You may like it, you may not like it. If you like it, you know, it's an ebook PDF if you don't want the hard copy. And, you know, an ebook PDF is a book that, whether we like it or not, it's printable. And I can't say too much more than that. But and I'm not invested in that. You know, it's like, there's a book. If you want to go buy the damn book, go ahead. But, you know, there's a PDF, and you can do what you want with your PDF.
That's it. Well, you know, I've shared it around, and I've got a to-do list of other places that I want to share it with as well. So, which I haven't even told you about yet, but I'm sort of like, because when things pop into my mind, I just like write it down and think, oh, that could be a good place to share it with, you know. And yeah, and it's usually when you're not expecting the thought to pop into your head. That's why I use audio on my mobile phone a lot with things like that. I just record it in there so I don't forget it. And I go, good, no, I don't have to worry about writing that down now.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thanks really for helping. And I also want to say, look, I just deactivated Facebook because it was like taking, even the little bit of time I was giving it was too much time.
Yes.
But I'm on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And all you have to do is message me on LinkedIn, and we will talk about what you can do with the book.
Yes. Yes, that's it. I was just about to say, like, you know, how do people contact you? And I was going to say,
well, there's LinkedIn, and there's also it's the email, which is Barry J, and then Zworestine, so it's BARRY, then a J for Juliet, and ZWORESTINE @gmail.com, and you can just put that at the end of it.
Yes.
And if there are organizations that are interested but want to have a talk, just tell me. I'll make time. My week's a bit hectic between my veteran work and my school, but there's always time to go on Zoom and just talk and share. You know, it's not even about the book. It's, as I'm done today, I'm happy to run through and even talk to people in your team about my understanding. And it's not the only way. It's my way, which was born out of my experiences.
Yes.
But I love the interaction, and I love the fact that we can all talk and learn from each other.
Yes.
So yeah, anybody can contact me. I'm never that busy, and when I do get that busy, then I need to readdress my values. So.
Yeah. No, that's good.
So
well,
I want to say thanks, Mandy. Really, you've been an absolute gem and a great support.
Oh, well, I'm so grateful. And, you know, like I've been following your posts since we first connected. I've been following your posts and just see what's been going on. And it's been in my mind that I would love to have you, you know, on the show, because I love having conversations with people and getting their insights, because I also get to learn about myself. You get to, it's like a nice way of growing together, having a conversation, right? And so so I get excited about it, and I was stoked that we got the chance to do this today. So, you know, I value your time. Thank you.
Well, you know, Mandy, you've demonstrated that you're not a veteran, but you have a love of this tribe, and that is what gives you the ticket into the doorway, is your love.
Yes.
And, you know, that combined with your passion for things that you know work from your own learning, but it all is grounded in the love and being able to come in there with an open heart and learn.
Yes.
And in return, the wisdom you will get back will enhance your life. But without love, without that presence of care, it doesn't matter what tool you've got. You know, a monkey can use a tool.
Yes.
But love is what creates the healing process. Then use whatever tool you want.
Yes. 100%. I agree with you big time there. It is. any way that I can support veterans, I just adore them. I just, and even like when we have conversations, I can feel what they're saying, right? I can feel it in here. And I'm so grateful that I get to have that conversation, right? That's
Correct.
that means
Correct.
a lot to me, that I get to be you know, a vault, and we get to share insights, kind of like
Well,
what
you know,
we're doing now.
let's start off by doing a couple of things, which is, first of all, take the D for disordered out of the way you see a human being, because they're not
Yes,
disordered.
yes,
Secondly, they're not clients.
yes,
Thirdly, they're not patients. They
yes,
are human beings, and extraordinary human beings.
yes,
So let's humanize the process and get real,
yes, yeah,
and then see what we can do.
yes. That's it. That's it. Well, I don't have many clients that are veterans, but I have lots of friends that are.
Yeah,
And so,
good.
and so that's yeah, and I love hanging with them, and I have a lot of fun too with them as well. So
Oh, yeah, they mean to spend time with her. Yeah, totally. Just demonic senses of humor, and they're loyal, and they are
yeah,
extraordinary men and women. And
yeah,
what beautiful humans is the best way. They, you know, thousands, hundreds and hundreds that I've sat with over 20 years,
yeah,
they are brothers.
yes,
They really are. I mean, it's not that I go home or I break boundaries, but they're brothers. We are brothers
yes,
sitting together, but I'm sitting in service of their story,
yeah,
male or female.
yeah,
And just what a gift, you
yes,
know, to have had the opportunity to work for an extraordinary organization that
yes,
is doing wonderful things with this
yes,
wonderful tribe has
yes,
probably been one of the biggest gifts in my
yeah,
life.
yeah.
It really has.
And do you want to mention anything about that organization on here?
Yeah, look,
Yeah,
Open Arms has morphed from, you know, early
yeah,
days of
mm,
Vietnam Veterans Counseling Services, when we were all with the Vietnam boys. And
yes,
they really were the love of my life, because they were my tribe very much.
yeah,
But to slowly understand and learn current warfare and the challenges of current warfare from the new bunch,
yeah,
and to be in an organization that really allows so much opportunity for them to receive healing.
yes,
You know, it's not 10 sessions and goodbye. It's
yes,
an
yeah,
organization driven by compassion and care.
yes,
And I think generally people are vetted, and I think the people that do the service have a great care. But in any situation, it's, you know, in a school, you're going to get teachers that behave like monkeys, you know, and you're going to get extraordinary teachers. So you may get somebody you bond with, you may get somebody you don't bond with. But as an
yes,
organization, it's compassion and its willingness to give people the time to heal,
yes,
that I have seen over 20 years from the early days.
yeah,
I have a lot of respect for. And proof of that is that when veterans have come through, like an SAS guy may say, look, my mate said I must contact you. My response is, you need to go through Open Arms.
yeah,
I won't take people unless they come through Open Arms, because
yes,
I know they're embedded in an organization that looks after them on a number of levels.
yes,
So yeah, it's I'm very grateful to have been given that opportunity, and then to expand it into what I'm able to do overseas and in other informal settings, and sharing what I've learned as I continue to learn.
yeah,
And I know I do sometimes kick against some narrow-minded approaches.
yeah,
I'm not about Open Arms, but hey, you know, if we're not going to kick against stuff sometimes and stretch into new stuff that's ethical and professional, well, we're never going to change, are we? And, you know,
yeah,
today we've talked about out of your comfort zone. So,
yes,
but yeah, it's a great organization, and I really do recommend them for any veterans listening. If they are struggling, just go call Open Arms. You know,
yes,
I'm on my slowing down phase now after 20 years, and I'm reducing my numbers, and I'll bring it down to a small number. But there are others out there, and many others, that are doing great work.
yeah,
So a good organization. Don't do it on your own.
yes, that's it. That's fantastic. I'm so stoked you got to come on today.
Well, thank you.
Eh,
Yeah, no, thank you. I should be thanking you for the opportunity, not the other way around. Seriously.
Well, thank each other, because I am so grateful, and it's so important to be having this conversation. And I just remembered now when I very first connected with you, because there was someone who was really close to me that I wanted to connect with Open Arms. I thought Open Arms would be super helpful for them. And I'd heard of Open Arms, but didn't, know heaps and heaps about Open Arms.
Yeah.
Didn't know someone in Open Arms. And and so it was so funny. It was just, it had been on my mind. And then through John's post and John's support of me, and that's how we connected. And then when I saw that you were with Open Arms, I was like, that there is a sign today, right now.
Yeah, they're great. And
yeah,
that's the core organization in this country for veterans.
Yeah.
And I like the way they work. And so yeah,
that's good.
It's whether you find someone you fit or not, well, that's life. It's marriage, it's friendships.
Yes.
Life is sometimes not about, it's about a bad fit and then what you do. So
yes,
no guarantees, but
yes,
it's an organization which has certainly got a lot of integrity.
yes. Awesome.
All
Cool.
right.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up, because I know I promised time commitments on this, so because I want to make sure that because how many hours are you ahead?
So we are 1658, 1700 here now.
Yes. So I want to make sure that I'm sort of like not, running into your dinner time or whatever. So
no sweat, but I mean, thank you. I mean, I think we've covered a lot about what I believe is so important.
Yes.
And I'm hoping some of it people may also feel or sense its importance.
Yes.
But I said I'm around, so
yes.
always welcome conversations.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. You're a legend.
So are you.
And thank you. And thanks everyone for watching today. And I'll put Barry's details underneath this, so that when you want to, to make it easier for you to reach out to him. So massive hugs. See you later, everybody.